So, well, this is the first time we're trying this, and so we anticipate challenges, but that is part of what we're going to talk about tonight, actually, having business sense. We've entitled, and excuse my voice a bit. I I've been involved in a lot of running around in the United States. I've been driving about 3,200 kilometers between Leesburg, Virginia, and Boston, and I just got back on Friday, and then had to to Ottawa to speak for the Church of Pentecost in Ottawa. So I just noticed yesterday that my voice was quite sore. So forgive me for the quality of my voice. But hopefully that will not be an impediment. If if you could kind of yes, thank you. Good, Alex, you're welcome.
Thanks.
Good. All right. Now you can mute your phone, your laptop. Yeah. So hopefully the quality of my voice won't be an issue. But tonight hopefully the quality of my voice will not get in the way. Um, I've been running around quite a bit. But tonight I'm entitling what we are looking at,
Here, do something.
and my aim tonight will be to actually shock you into a certain realization that some people who think they are in business really aren't, while others who think they are not in business are. And I'll explain that. Everyone needs business sense. We're already in the third month of the year, all right? In fact, the March is almost over, 2 days, and March is over. And if we're in business, a corporation, we'll be asking ourselves, what are our first quarter results, right? And in this webinar, I want us to look at business in a different way. Business as it pertains to our own life, as pertains to our own purpose, as it pertains to our own productivity. That's why I call this everyone needs business sense. So we're going to do four main things. Number one, we're going to redefine business, and I'm going to challenge. I mean, how come when we think about business, we just think about money? Business is more than about money. So we're going to redefine business. Number two, I'm going to provide six key characteristics and outcomes of business sense. What does it mean when we say somebody has business sense? All right, and these are six things that should characterize our lives if we have business sense. And then practically, I'm going to ask each of us to choose one area of our lives where we realized from this seminar, or it's been occurring to you since 2016 began, that you need business sense in that area. You may need to ask yourself some tough questions in that area, but choose one area you realize that you need business sense in. And then if you want, we'll encourage you to get a coach or an accountability partner to make this business sense happen in that area of your life, so that by the end of the next quarter, by June ending, if we do another seminar, you would have moved forward in that area of your life. All right. So number one, we'll redefine business. Number two, I'll talk about six characteristics and outcomes of business, redefine business and business sense. And this may surprise you, and I actually hope it will shock you, that what if business is not just about money? And really, we're going to find out that it is not just about money. Tonight, I'm going to redefine business in a way that may totally shock you. I looked at a number of dictionaries. For example, Cambridge. I was asking myself, what is business sense? And Cambridge, dictionary said that business sense is an understanding of the ways in which business works successfully. So if somebody has business sense, it means the person understands how to succeed in business. All right. If something makes good business sense, it means it will help business to succeed. All right. Some call it business acumen. This keenness and speed in understanding and deciding on a business situation. But what is business? So yeah, that's business sense. Have knowing how to make business succeed, how to make business work successfully. But what is business itself? And I did a little search And it surprised me that let's just take Merriam-Webster's dictionary. All right, it's one of the most sought after dictionaries in the world. Now, Merriam-Webster's dictionary, I realized, had about 10 definitions of business, and at least 10, because some of these definitions also had sub definitions. All right, but let me just give you a few, and only one of the definitions, only one set of the definitions had. So I was talking about Merriam-Webster's dictionary, and there were at least 10 definitions of business there. And I found it interesting that of the sets of 10, only one set had to do with money. All right. It's talked about business as a usually commercial or mercantile. That's where we get the word merchant from. A usually commercial or mercantile activity engaged in as a means of livelihood. So that's your trade. So I mean the restaurant business, all right. Business could mean a commercial or industrial enterprise. All right. So this is the business district of Calgary or the business district of Montreal. Business could be dealings or transactions, especially of an economic nature. All right. But all these three were the main things that talked about business as involving money. And all these were one set, of the definitions that I found that I'm talking about. But there were other definitions of business. For example, business is an affair or a matter. So we can say, oh, this whole webinar business is getting out of hand. In other words, this whole webinar affair or this whole webinar matter is getting out of hand. So business could be an affair or a matter. And so I put it to you that if you're involved in any affair or if you're involved in any matter, you are in business. Business, another definition, is an immediate task or objective, a mission. For example, somebody can ask, what is your business here? So if you have any immediate task or objective, if you have any mission you are pursuing, you are in business. Another look at business as a personal concern. So somebody will say, look, this is none of your business. Do you have a personal concern? Then you are in business. One other definition is serious activity requiring time and effort, and usually the avoidance of distractions. Any serious activity requiring time and effort, and usually the avoidance of distractions, is also considered business. So people can say, let's get down to business. And I sure do hope that each of you has some serious activity that requires time and effort, and that requires that you avoid distractions. If you do, then I put it to you that you're in business. So I began to wonder then, when did business become just about money? How come that when we think about business, many times we're just thinking about money? In fact, we become so mercantile that as soon as we think about business, we don't think about any of the things I mentioned, but we think about something to do with economic gain or to do with, with finances. But I found out that the first definition of business that Merriam-Webster used, it actually qualified it. It put a caveat on that definition and said it was an archaic use of the word. It defined business as purposeful activity. Purposeful activity. And then it called it this as an archaic use, an archaic use of the word business. But if you think about it and you go back into the etymology of the word, that is actually how the word business came about. The word business is actually Busynes, busyness. What are you busy about? Busyness. What are you occupied with? So whatever is occupying your mind, your time, your schedule, your life, whatever you are occupied with, whatever you are busy about, that is your busyness. Whatever purposeful activity. And so you realize that then if each of us are in business, then each of us needs business sense. And I think it's a very sad thing that we are reneging business to people who are on Wall Street or on the stock market, or in commercial activity in the flea, farmers market or whatever it is, when each one of us is in busyness. So this explains a very curious parable that Jesus told in Luke chapter 19. And is Emmanuel around? And I've asked him to read Luke chapter 19, but I'll read it. And I'll read from verse 11. I'm sure we've all come across this passage before. This is Jesus speaking, and it says, while they were listening to this, he went on to tell them a parable, because he was near Jerusalem and the people thought the kingdom of God was going to appear at once. He said, a man of noble birth went to a distant country to have himself appointed king and then to return. So he called 10 of his servants and gave them 10 minas. A mina in Jesus' day was worth 3 months' salary. Right? He gave them 3 minas. Sorry. He called 10 of his servants and gave them 10 minas. So a mina for each person. And listen to what he said. I'm reading from the NIV. Put this money to work. Put this money to work, he said, until I come back. But his subjects hated him and sent a delegation after him to say, we don't want this man to be our king. He was made king, however, and returned home. Then he sent for the servants to whom he had given the money in order to find out what they had gained with it. The first one came and said, sir, your mina has earned 10 more. Wow. Well done, my good servant, his master replied. Because you have been trustworthy in a very small matter, take charge of 10 cities. The second came and said, sir, your mina has earned 5 more. His master answered, you take charge of 5 cities. Then another servant came and said, sir, here is your mina. I have kept it laid away in a piece of cloth. I was afraid of you because you're a hard man. You take what you do not put in and reap what you do not sow. His master replied, I will judge you by your own words, you wicked servant. You knew, did you, that I am a hard man, taking out what I did not put in and reaping what I did not sow? Why then didn't you put my money on deposit? So that when I came back, I could have collected it with interest. Then he said to those standing by, take his mina away from him and give it to the one who has 10 minas. Sir, they said, he already has 10. He replied, I tell you that to everyone who has, more will be given. But as for the one who has nothing, even what they have will be taken away. But those enemies of mine who do not want me to be king over them, bring them here and kill them in front of me. This story, this parable is different from the parable of the talents. Those were 3 people. These are 10 servants. Each of them was given a mina. And by the way, if one of these webinars, we're going to do a financial, webinar, financial wisdom webinar. But this is the definition we actually use in financial wisdom for investment, putting money to work. That is the definition of investment. Savings and investment are not the same. So this man literally said, invest my money, put this money to work. That is what he said, as he gave each one of them a mina. All right. But why am I saying that this whole idea of busyness, or what you are occupied with, what you are busy about, brings my mind to this passage? Because for many years, for the life of me, I never could understand why the King James Version of the Bible in Luke 19:13, what we just read, said the master leaving addressed the servants by telling them, occupy till I come. And I know many of you on this call are Church of Pentecost people when you read King James. So I'm sure you have read that before. Occupy till I come. And some of you quote it. Occupy till I come. The NIV says, put this money to work. The New Living Translation says, invest this money for me while I'm gone. The English Standard Version says, engage in business. The Jubilee Bible says, trade until I come. And the King James, which if you like is the old or archaic version of the Bible, says, occupy till I come. This just goes to buttress the fact that what you are occupied with What occupies your mind, your time, your schedule, your life, what you are busy about, that is your business. So I hope I have, made this point enough. Hopefully I've really belabored the point. But guys, I'm here to announce that whether you realize it or not, you are in business. I am in business because there's something that is occupying most of my time, most of my mind, most of my life. Occupy till I come. Do business till I come. And you see, if you haven't ever thought about it this way, you are probably making a loss because you have not thought of yourself as a businessman or a businesswoman. But I'm here to tell you tonight, you are in business, whether you realize it or not. Now, I want to use an illustration, and hopefully this will shock you into understanding what I'm talking about. I don't know how many of you have, like $87,000 cash, but even if we were to get very mercantile, all right, and still insist that, oh no, business is all about money. Let's put what I'm saying in monetary terms. 2016 has begun. We're already 3 months in. What if I told you that each of us started the year with $87,360? I'm sure some of you are like, where's the money? Show it to me. Show me the money. But really, how did I come about that? Time is money, in quotes, all right? Really, the money we get is because we exchange our time, which is our life, for money. So what I'm doing, how did I get this $87,360? I just said, you know what? Let's just say that each of us is working for minimum wage, all right? And it varies even between the states, and here it varies, and even between provinces it varies. But just for argument purpose, let's just say $10 an hour. And I know some of you earn $100 an hour, and some of you earn $1,000 an hour. Some also earn less than $10 an hour. Let's just say that each of us on average earns $10 an hour. So for 24 hours in a day, that's $240 a day. That's what your business, that's what you are worth, so to speak. That comes to $1,680 a week. And since there are 52 weeks in a year, that comes to $87,360. Now, we are not taking 2 weeks vacation off because no one takes a vacation in life. All right? You don't take a vacation in life. If you take a vacation in life, you are dead. And again, I'm not saying we are working only 40 hours a week. I'm using all the 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week, because the whole of life is work and work is life. I'm not taking away sleeping time and other times because we are never off. That if you are off, you are dead. All right. And some of us have our time worth much more than $10 an hour. But even if you calculate at $10 an hour, do you realize that at the beginning of the year, you literally have $87,360? Now, if I brought $87,360 cash to you, you probably will be thinking very smartly about how you are going to maximize that amount of money, how you're going to make profit, how you're going to multiply that money, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, it is sad if only commercial business people apply business sense to make profit. When all of us, each of us has a calling. So each of us has a business, if you like. It is sad if we don't realize we also have $87,360 at least. And God is saying, occupy, be busy, multiplying, trading, investing, engaging in business with this $87,360 until I come back. Are we going to be like the one guy who comes back and says, I earn 10 more? Are we going to be the guy who comes back and says, I earn 5 more? Or are we going to be the guy who came back and said, I did nothing with it? So that's the first point I want us to make. Redefining business and business sense. That guys, so long as we are occupied with something, we are in business. At least $87,360 every year. And now, if you like, do the calculation, multiply 87,360 by how old you are. And maybe before we end the call, I'll ask everybody to tell me how much money they've blown over the past 30 years or 35 years or 40 years, or depending on how old you are. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all in business. Secondly, I want to talk about 6 characteristics of business sense that every one of us should have, with this realization that we are all in business, and that our time is literally money, in fact, more than money. I find that there are 6 important characteristics of business sense. There may be more, but these are 6 that help me to tell myself, listen, I've got to be business-like about the way I conduct my life. I'm going to dwell a lot on the first one, but I'm going to list all the 6 anyway. And God willing, the next time we'll have the PowerPoint as well, so that you can write your notes. This is the first time we're trying it, so pardon us. And I appreciate those joining us from Singapore and Russia and all over Canada and the United States. That's awesome. So 6 important characteristics. Number 1, seriousness. Anybody who's about business is serious. Seriousness. So when I'm asking whether you have business sense, looking at the way you conduct your life, the way you conduct your busyness. Is there seriousness? Number 2, savviness, smartness. All right, be wise, smart. Number 3, efficiency. Efficiency. This is about speed. All right, how fast are you in doing what you do? Because that's one of the things that makes China beat everybody else. America may do the same thing, but they are not as efficient as the Chinese or the Japanese. The next one is effectiveness. Are you effective at what you do? Impact. Effective. You meet your objectives. Effectiveness. So seriousness, savviness, efficiency or speed. And there, when it comes to efficiency, I'm hoping that maybe the next time we have, at the end of the third quarter, when we have a call, I maybe get a bit more into the efficiency, because one of the areas where I myself, have been challenging. I've been looking really about how to use technology to be more efficient. Because I may be very effective at what I do, but I realize that wow, there are all kinds of apps, that will help me to do the same thing as effectively, but in less time. All right, efficiency is important in business. Effectiveness. So 2 S's: seriousness, savviness. 2 E's: efficiency, effectiveness, and then 2 P's: problem solving and profitability. Now, problem solving, and again, I'm not going into details on any of these. I'm just going to go into details in the first one, the seriousness. I mean, that is what makes somebody entrepreneurial. An entrepreneur is somebody who solves problems and makes money because of that. Whether it's because there's no electricity, so he goes and gets generators and starts selling, or the water is bad, he starts doing pure water. Whatever it is, an entrepreneur is someone who sees problems and he sees opportunities in these problems, solves them, and makes a profit for it. So those who see problems and as opportunities and solve them and decide not to take profit for it, they call themselves social entrepreneurs. But I'm saying today that every one of us needs to have that mindset of being a problem solver. Every one of us needs that characteristic of business sense, because life will bring problems, and the one who's able to solve problems wins the day, right? And then the last one is profitability. Problem solving, the last one is profitability. Here I'm talking about results. I'm talking about fruitfulness. And believe it or not, you can tell from the story, the parable in Luke 19, that God expects results. He expects profitability. Jesus said in John 15, you did not choose me. I chose you and appointed you to go and bear fruits that will last. And I think, and I'll be very honest with you, I have seen business people, as in business as we typically know it, business for money, versus ministry people, people who are in missions or, pastors, evangelists, things like that. And many ministry people don't think they're in business. But today we are realizing that we are all in business. And so you realize that typical business people or commercial, mercantile people, you know, they want to make profits because they have investors who are putting money in the business. They want to see the business succeed. A lot of ministry people are almost like, it's all in God's hands. If you don't get results, it's okay. It's the effort that matters. No, God expects faithfulness. It's true. Ministry people tend to focus on faithfulness. Business people tend to focus on fruitfulness or results. And I'm here to challenge us that we need both, right? Those of us in ministry need to see fruit as well. And God expects fruit. He says, you did not choose me. I chose you to bear fruit. So we have to be faithful and fruitful. He says, I chose you to bear fruit that will last. And you remember Jesus went to, I told the story of, in fact, John the Baptist said the axe is at the foot of the tree. You remember that? And then Jesus told the parable about, a man who used to come and look at his tree, this fig tree, and it wasn't bearing fruit. And he said, cut it down. Why should he use up the soil? You remember that story? Yeah. And then the husbandman or the gardener said, oh, please give it one more year. If it does not bear fruit, then cut it down. God expects profitability, he expects results, he expects fruits, from us. All right. So those are the 6 characteristics, and they are outcomes as well, of business sense: seriousness, savviness. I use SEP as an acronym to remember. We used to do that in medical school all the time. That's how we used to remember the signs and symptoms, and we always use acronyms and things like that. So SEP, double S, seriousness, savviness, double E, efficiency, effectiveness, double P, problem solving, and profitability. Now I want to zoom in on the seriousness, and then we'll open the lines for questions and comments. Now, when I talk about seriousness, we say, well, this guy means business. It means this guy has a vision, this guy is on a mission, this guy has a strategy, this guy has goals, this guy is serious about what he's pursuing. And just this afternoon, I was talking to a Chinese friend of mine, and she's planning on starting an education business. A lot of students in Japan and China in Asia in general, want to come to Canada to study. And she's thinking about doing a business, in that area. And so apparently there's some funding for that by the Canadian government. So she's had to put together a business plan. There is no body, there's no bank which will support somebody who says they have a business but doesn't have a business plan. You are not serious. The major thing I want to talk about when I talk about seriousness is having a business plan. There's a guy called Patrick Hall, and he writes for Forbes, Forbes magazine, all about wealth and all of that. And this is what he said about business plans. He said, business plans, I'm quoting, business plans are critical to the success of any new venture. I believe that entrepreneurs should dedicate time to create them, regardless if you're searching for investors. Business plans serve as a framework for your company and provide benchmarks to see if you're reaching your goals. In my experience, they are key to helping you think through your business and keep you on track. Now, we're talking about business sense, and I'm telling you that you are in business. Every one of us has a purpose from God. Every one of us has something he wants us to be occupied about. Every one of us has been given 24 hours in a day, which comes to $240 a day, which comes to $1,680 a week, which comes to $87,930 a year. Every one of us is in business. And I'm asking you, do you have a business plan? Do you have a business plan? What's your business plan? So if I should quote what Patrick Hall said, if I should kind of rephrase it and substitute, wherever the word business is, I substitute it with the word life, or wherever there's company or entrepreneur, I substitute it with everyone. What he's saying is this: life plans are critical to the success of any life. I believe that everyone should dedicate time to create them, regardless if you're searching for investors. Well, that may not apply. Life plans serve as the framework for your life and provide benchmarks to see if you're reaching your goals. I mean, how do you know that we are in March? How do you know you're doing well in life? Are you just going to measure it by how much money is in your bank account? Maybe that's a good measure. But what about, do you have a business plan? Do you have a life plan? Did you set goals at the beginning of the year? How do you benchmark, whether your life is moving forward? In my experience, these life plans are key, just like business plans, to helping you think through your life and keep you on track. I don't know whether any of you have done a business plan before, but you can Google business plans, the components of a business plan. And there are many different types, but generally there are about 10 parts of a business plan. There are about 10 components of a depending on who you read or who you are using as your reference point. But there are about 10 parts of a business plan, right? The first part of any business plan is the mission statement or the vision statement. What are you trying to create here? And for me, I mean the other parts of it as well, and I'll mention one or two of them. If I'll go through all of them, and then you can relate them to your life. Do you have a vision statement? Do you have a personal mission statement? That is key in a business plan, and it is key in a life plan. You have the contact of Emmanuel. If there's any of you who still don't have a vision statement or a personal mission statement, please don't continue into the next quarter of the year without one. There's nobody who will fund any entrepreneur who doesn't have a business plan, which begins by a serious vision or personal mission statement. Why should anybody invest in you if you don't have one? Have you set goals in every aspect of your life? Where was I? Good. Yes. So I'm saying the first part of a business plan is your mission statement or vision statement, your goals. I want to believe that each of us have a mission statement. If you don't, please give your name to Emmanuel and would help you to work through that, to have a personal mission statement, a vision statement, to set goals in all 4 areas of life: spiritual goals, goals in terms of worship, fellowship, discipleship, service, evangelism; physical goals in terms of your health. One of my physical goals this year is to be 175 pounds plus or minus 3, and I checked my weight this morning and I was 181 pounds. What does that mean? I've gone out of the range of my goals. But if I had never set a goal, it didn't matter whether I was 181 pounds or not, because guess what? A year ago, I was 190 something pounds. 2 years ago, I was 200 pounds. If we don't measure, if we don't set goals and measure and benchmark, how do we know we're succeeding? Spiritual goals, physical goals, like I said, health, in work, in wealth, financial, social goals. What are your goals regarding your wife, your husband, your children? Every one of us needs 3 M's in our lives. I'll come back to that. Mental goals. What do you want to learn this year? What skill? What character trait do you want to develop? Do you have a vision statement, a mission statement, goals? That is the first part of a business plan. And for me, that's the part I want to emphasize. But I can just run through other parts of a business plan, and then you ask yourself, when you have a business plan, you need to describe your company and your product or your service. And I want to ask you, have you ever sat down to describe yourself? Who are you? Yeah, you say you're in the business of life, but who are you? Another part of a business plan is a description of how your product or your service is different. Have you ever sat down to ask yourself, what is my unique selling proposition? What makes me different from anybody else? Because it's going to affect how you do business, how you occupy yourself in life, what you do with your time, what you do with your dollars. Every 1 hour is at least $10. Another part of a mission of a business plan is you describe your management team. including the experience of the key team members and previous successes. And I'm asking you, who's on your team? Have you ever sat down to think of your 3 M's? In the hard group, we believe that everybody needs 3 M's. Somebody above you, somebody at your level, somebody below you for stability, like a tripod. The first M is somebody above you, a mentor, somebody you look up to, want to be like, who has succeeded in what you are trying to do. You need somebody at your level, a mate who you can relate to, who you can share common, life journeys with, and a minnow, MINNOW, somebody who's younger, or who's less experienced, who you can also pour into. And we always tell people to avoid the fourth M, the messers, those who mess you up. All right. So in the business plan, you talk about your management team, and I'm asking you, who is on your management team? This life you are leading, who is on your management team? In a business plan, you do a SWOT analysis, right? You talk about your company's strengths, W, weaknesses, O, opportunities, and threats, a SWOT analysis. I'm asking you, have you ever done a personal SWOT analysis? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities that are before you? What are the threats? One assignment I want to give each of us, if you've never done it before, is to take an assessment called Strengths Finder. And I don't have any shares in the company, so don't think that I'm doing this because I have any benefit. Strengths Finder 2.0 was designed by Gallup, GALLUP. You can Google it. And there's a book that you purchase online, and inside the book there's a code. And the code will enable you to take an online test, and it will bring out your top 5 strengths. Every one of us needs to know what our top 5 strengths are. Man, guys, look, people are in business making soap. When Jesus comes, nobody will use soap anymore. People are in business building houses. Jesus said, look, not even one stone will be left on another. Everything in the earth will be destroyed. What a point I'm making is that these things that are not even that important, that are not lasting, everlasting, people have serious business plans about. How come we don't have, many of us have no business plan for our lives? Of course, a business plan will also have cash flow statements, and revenue projections and things like that. What about you? What are your financial plans? What are your financial goals? So that is really what I want to emphasize today, the seriousness aspect, because it is sad when people who are in business to make things that perish have a business plan and have seriousness about how they go about their duties and activities. And those of us who are in the business of life rather don't have any such seriousness, savviness, efficiency, effectiveness, problem solving, profitability. I've emphasized just seriousness today, and I want you to go and look for a business plan and compare it to your life and draw a life plan. Please do this before we get into the next quarter of the year. Otherwise, your $87,000 is wasting away. So to round up, I want to give you an assignment. I think I've given you 3 assignments already. Finding out about a business plan, what a business plan looks like, the components of it, and compare it to your life and doing the same. And number 2, Strengths Finder. Find your strengths. Do that test. All right. And let us know, what you find out, and if you want any insights that we may have into what your strengths are and how you may use them best in this business of life. The third thing I'm going to challenge you to do, of course, if you don't have a personal vision statement, that's part of your business plan, your life plan. You've got to, get it going, and Emmanuel can help you with that. Now I'm going to task you to choose one area of your life in which you need to develop business sense. Is there an area of your life where you need some more seriousness, or some more savviness, or some more efficiency, some more effectiveness, some more problem solving, some more profitability? Let me be very honest with you. I love to write, but one of the things I realized that wastes a lot of my time. That doesn't make me, I'm effective in what I write, but I'm not efficient many times, because when I send out my communication, monthly newsletters, quarterly, etc., I take a lot of time trying to design it, etc. It just occurred to me today, one of my staff is very good at this. Why don't I pay $100 a month to do this? Immediately, my efficiency has changed. I shouldn't spend 4 hours trying to figure out MailChimp. somebody does it and loves it, and I'd rather pay that $100, than waste my life not getting efficient at something like this. That's just a personal one. That's my area that I've chosen to work on to develop more business sense. And what is your area that you need seriousness, savviness, efficiency, effectiveness, problem solving, profitability in? And then the last thing is, do you need a coach or an accountability partner to work with you and to walk alongside you to make business sense happen in that area of your life by the end of the next quarter? If you do, let us know. We could pair each other up, or I'll leave that to Emmanuel, so that it is always helpful for someone to come alongside, that can help you with accountability, so that next quarter, in June, should we repeat this seminar or do a similar webinar, you would have progressed significantly. Because guess what? Benjamin Franklin once said, "Dost thou love life? Then do not squander time, because it is the stuff life is made of." Many of us don't want to squander money because it's physical, and life it really hurts. Life pays us back really, really painfully when we waste money. But there's something even more important, and it's life. And even if we convert our hours to money, that is $87,000 every year that many of us are allowed to go waste. So I hope you've realized that you are in business, and that you realize that we need an understanding of the ways in which this business of life can work successfully, and that we are all going to be more serious. We're all going to be more savvy, wisdom from God. We're all going to be more efficient and effective, be problem-solving oriented, entrepreneurial, and seek profit for this life that God has given us. Because whether you realize it or not, you are in business, and you need business sense. I'll open the floor for any questions or comments. I'll be more than happy to take them. Emmanuel.
It's good. I think my paradigm has been shifted. I mean, it's good to have this new perspective about your life and what business really means.
Mm.
And yeah, it's exciting. So, Doc, thank you very much and for this opportunity too. So my question would be, when it comes to the results, I'm sure maybe we'll get there, but I'm just trying to ask this ahead of time. So, in terms of being fruitful,
Yeah.
I mean, specifically in ministry, how are you able to measure? I'm thinking maybe it will be based on your objectives and mission statements, but
Yes.
in that sense, I mean, to be very sure, as Paul said, at the end of the journey, you've won the race, you've fought a good fight. So, I mean, how do you really ensure that in the end you are really being profitable?
Mm. That's a good question. That's a very good question. And you rightly, yeah, you began answering your question by, what are the objectives, right? What are the goals? That is the common sense way of assessing whether or not you are being fruitful. All right. But above and beyond that, especially if you're a person of faith, which it looks like most of us, if not all of us on the line are, what is it that God has put on your heart? Or what is it that God told you? Some of you have received a word of prophecy, or there's a particular scripture that ministered to you in a certain way. And if you are living that out, if you are not as well, you know. And of course, we need to be careful not to measure, profitability always like the same way the typical business person will measure profitability. So, for example, heaven rejoices when one soul is saved. For a commercial mercantile businessman, what? One? That's not enough. I'm like, how very inefficient, And I've even heard, business people use terms like, what is the cost of a soul? Because they do all the math. If there's an organization has a $2 million budget, and they're winning 10 souls a year, they'll divide 10 by 2 million and say, hey, one call, 2 million by 10, and say, wow, one soul costs $200,000. You don't want to get mercantile, all right, with determining fruit, especially in ministry. But all I'm saying is that God expects fruit, and between us and Him, we should be able to discern and tell, whether or not we are being fruitful. I mean, I can go and preach somewhere, maybe nobody answers the altar call. Doesn't mean I'm not being fruitful. Between God and I, we will know. But ultimately, when it comes to spiritual things, ultimately God decides, whether or not we are being fruitful. Don't forget also that fruit, in the scriptures, fruit has a lot to do with character as well, right?
Yeah.
So love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. How are you bearing these things? That is a major measure of fruitfulness. Jesus said, by their fruit, you will know them.
I think just a follow up on that. So one question that I want to ask is then when it comes to our, I don't want to use the word secular, but um, on the other part of our life, is it not that we put so much pressure on ourselves because we usually want to see profitability, we want to see the bottom line increase and all that. But when it comes to something like, as you were talking about, like soul winning,
Yeah,
we tend to say, okay, the fulfillment, no, you have fulfilled that. This is the agenda that you heard from God concerning soul winning. You preach the word, you are satisfied with it. But let's say you are doing a business, you go out there, you went out there, you put in all your effort, and
yeah,
still no, the bottom line is not adding up, But you know, that seriousness, the business sense, this we talk
yeah,
about seriousness. So
yeah,
that is where I am, I'm confused when it comes to the things of the world. We try to be no so much put pressure on ourselves than when it
yeah.
comes to the things of God.
It's true. It's true, which is part of what I'm hoping we will, that this webinar will address that. And we probably need a bit of we need to put God into the picture when it comes to our marketplace life, and say, sometimes you do this and that, and you don't get certain results, and say, Lord, I know you're still in control. So we need a bit of that in that aspect of our life. But when it comes to ministry life as well, we need a bit more of the hardcore business sense, because many of
Hmm.
us are also too lax, too lax, when it comes to the things of God. As in Yashi, those of you who are Ghanaian, it doesn't matter, you know. So we need a bit more, seriousness, business sense, when it comes to ministry, and then ministry and business people may need a bit more also, of having space for God, because sometimes you work yourself and work yourself and work yourself, and thinking that it all depends on you, and don't even bring the God factor in. So that's a very good point. We both need to learn from each other. And this guy always says it. What's his name? Bill Hybels. He organizes the Global Leadership Summit, every year. And usually he brings both business people and church leaders. And he always says that with enough humility, anybody can learn from anybody. So I really believe that typical commercial business people can learn a lot, from ministry people, and ministry people can learn a lot as well from commercial business people. But the whole point is that we all need to have a certain seriousness about what God has called us to do. We're going to live only once. We don't get a second chance at this. You know that. We're never going to get a second chance at this life. We live only once. And so let's treat it like business and be profitable and be serious and savvy and efficient and effective and solve problems and make God say of us, well done, good and faithful servants. Somebody said, at the end of the day, those of us who've applied business sense and all of that and lived this life to the maximum, there are going to be two responses when we die. For some of us, God will say, welcome, welcome. And for some of us, He's going to say, well, come.
Yeah.
Good. So it's 10 o'clock here. That our time is up, but I
Yeah.
really would have us please do a serious follow-up. If you need accountability, maybe you set a goal, nobody's checking on you, contact Emmanuel, we'll pair you up with somebody. If you don't have a mission statement, is one of the things the Heart Group is an expert in, will help you to put one together. If you've never done the Strengths Finder test, take it, but get something practical out of this, before you get into the next quarter of the year.